Hi, my name is Tony. I'm dedicated about the hospitality industry. I'm a massive advocate for it. I believe in the business. I believe in the economy, this economy and small business. And this is my story.
Welcome to Fair Go, your favourite podcast about building a better tomorrow. A podcast by the people, for the people, where we share small business stories from the business owners themselves. When you encounter unfair obstacles that are too hard to overcome on your own, remember, you don't have to do it alone. Together we can rebuild our great Southland and make Australia proud again. Join us today at fairbusinessaustralia.com.au.
Well, welcome to Fair Go, a podcast by the people, for the people. I have with me Tony today. It's going to be a very unusual and I think a really refreshing interview. Tony is ex-hospitality and has really been brushing up on one of my favorite YouTubers or podcasters or however you find him online, Jordan Peterson. So Tony, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming.
Hi.
Good to have you.
Thank you so much. Love to be on.
So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background, because you were a business owner, and then we'll move to where you are right now and how COVID finds you in 2022.
Yeah, just a little background. So when I was 14, I started in the industry. I was lucky enough to get my first job working in the restaurants, as most young people do, breaking up boxes and working in the kitchen and busting your neck doing that kind of work. And I fell in love with it instantly. I knew this was going to be some sort of path for me. I love food. I love dealing with people, and just the experience of that over the years. I worked my way through, and I had a good mentor. Obviously, having a mentor in life is so important. I think this person really helped me stride through life, understand and help me through making some business choices. And it's always there for me, even to today, after so many years. I mean, I want to say, like, I'm 47, so it's been a long relationship. I can call on him anytime when it comes to those decisions, and he's helped me. So yes, as I fast forward, it got me to be a part owner in a business, and kind of go on from there. So I'm so attached to the hospitality industry. It's a passion for me. It's in my blood. So when I see what has happened over the last couple of years, it's so devastating, especially when COVID hit in Brisbane. I mean, something like over 50% of the businesses closed down, and these are families. These are people who work their hearts out to create jobs for people like me as a young kid, and to see that instantly destroyed overnight is so ridiculous. And you see, you catch Ubers these days, and half of them are just they're cab drivers now. Uber drivers, and they tell me their stories. I've had my business for 7 years, and then now it's all gone. I can't get any other work, and my family, I've lost this, I've lost that. It took me so long. I know what it's like to grow a business and how the struggles you get behind that, and to see that actually go gone, it's destroying. My daughters, they work in the same industry. These COVID jabs, they had to take against their will, and hours, because they had to keep their job, obviously, and that's their decision. It
wasn't their decision though, because they were coerced into doing it. So I really think it's important that I do interrupt you there, because it wasn't their decision. And that is actually the narrative that the left have introduced very cleverly, to say, well, it was my decision. No, it wasn't. You were held at gunpoint, proverbially. That wasn't your decision.
Yeah, and you're right. And in the sense too, that they have the feeling that it is theirs. Otherwise, they lose they essentially lose their life again. Like, how do you live as someone who's early 20s, and this is your job or nothing? That's it. That's it. And you're right, they are coerced and so frightening and so destroying, I think. And this can't go on. Like, it's really can't go on.
So when you say it can't go on, what do you personally see as the remedy? And let's get straight to talking about Jordan Peterson, because I could listen to him till the cows come home. I'm totally in love with that man's concepts. So how can it not go on? What could we, the people, do as consumers and as ex-business owners or current business owners to actually shift this around? And before we started the actual recording, you were talking about how challenging it is to even have the conversation. Do you think it starts with just being more bold to have that conversation?
100%. You have to go right at the devil and stare it straight in the face and fight it like everything, right? This is a fear that's impressed on us. And if we don't challenge it, or you got two choices. You either look at it and go, oh, tuck tail and run, or comply, or face the bully in its face and go right at it, right? And the bully does back down. So I think that choice is probably the best option. I really think we start to find out facts and challenge those leaders, challenge those people who make these ridiculous decisions, and push these facts in their face and say, right, here's ours, where's yours? Like, let's put it to, and let's have a discussion, and let's reassess the rules. Like, how hard can that be? They can easily say, okay, we made a mistake here, right? Based on the facts that are there in the world and other countries that are having better results rather than being logged down, this is their results. Surely they can look at that and go, oh, this makes sense. Okay, we made a mistake here. Let's reassess that. What do you think?
I think it all boils down to ego, Tony. I think it all boils down to ego, and a lie to cover up another lie to cover up another lie. And then you forget what the original lie was. I mean, let's go back to 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And I know I go on about this ad nauseum, but it's because we need to never, never, never forget what happened during this time. Right. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Yep. Then it was, they'll never mandate the jab. Yep. Now they've mandated the jab. Then it was, let's just get to, I think it was 70 or 75%. Then it's, let's get to 80%. Then it's, let's get to 90. Now let's get to 95. And now yesterday, for people who are listening to this in a few weeks' time, it was yesterday that Novak Djokovic was actually sent home. What the flip is that? How can you just deport an athlete of his stance? What?
I know, right? I really want to swear. I wish I could. I think I could. I will, but I won't. But you're right. We're seeing our government lie to us continuously, and what hurts is we're okay with that.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think we're okay with it?
Because we never do challenge. In our history, we've never come back and challenged them, and they get away with it so easily. I want to say in our workplace, I want to say 70% comply. Actually, no, I would say 90% of our workplace comply, and that's a good resident of Australians. They just comply, right?
Yeah.
No, you just can't. There's so much. This will always keep going on. The chain has to be broken, and I think also it's going to start with the young children. I mean, look at the young generation. When you talk about politics, they wouldn't have a clue what politics are, right? They just go green. I vote green because it's the nice thing, right? It's a good color. They sound like them. Are you kidding? Yeah, that's where the dangers are. Where the dangers are.
And you know what? We as over 40s, it's our fault that is the case, because we haven't been willing to have the conversation.
Absolutely.
Because we want to avoid confrontation. And now they think, because they're in their woke universities and listening to those woke professors, they think that the rest of us who are out there busting our guts to just pay the bills don't know anything. And there is that breakdown between intergenerational conversations.
Correct. Correct.
I mean, I remember back when I was in my late teens that the big thing of the day was you don't need to get married. You can just live with someone. And that was the big rebellion of the day. And then it was moving through to, abortion at the time was quite fine up to 3 months. But then, after that, it was a bit of we didn't really want to talk about that and it wasn't really okay. Well, fast forward to today, and we've now got, safe schools, and let's have it off with everybody so that you can work out whether you're gay, straight, bi, or in between, or poly, whatever that looks like. And they're teaching this to children, mind you, who aren't even what the state would consider legal. And the state thinks it's 16, and they lowered the age of consensual sex down to 16. And I know this is getting way off topic now, but the point is,
that's relevant.
We have been refusing to have this conversation, thinking, well, we don't want to bully people, and we don't want to be thinking that we're too strict or too stringent or like our parents or whatever that looks like. And now all of a sudden you've got the kids coming out with these incredibly strange ideas that we go, why do you think that? Well, because we've stopped having that conversation.
Yeah, correct. I think we've just touched on something. It's about having those conversations with them. It's the right way to do it, and doing it on a platform that's relevant to them. We can go back to Jordan Peterson's stuff. As I've been learning, I'm not going to be an advocate or anything like that, or know that, or be on some sort of level as him, but I understand his teachings. And we were talking about social compliance, and he talks about how evil that is. Most of the Germans didn't want to be a Nazi, but they just did because of not being part of that group, and you be singled out, and and then and that's what it feels like now. We feel like we're being singled out because we don't take jabs, and it's either jabbed or not. Do you know what I mean? And then you have all these people pointing and split the family. I've had this personally happen to ourselves. It's so incredible how something that was learned way back then is in our face today. And it's about that control too. I mean, Ruben, on the Ruben Report, he had a clip about, it was back again to Jordan Peterson, how when you kind of, how they take control. So you kind of have your back turned, and it's like hide and go seek, right? And then the move up, and and you turn away, and they kind of sneak around, but then all of a sudden it's right on top of you, and you didn't know, and everything has changed then. The danger of that, you know what I mean? And it feels like that's part of it too. And then we're in this stage where Australia, and especially Queensland, it's so weird how we are so controlled like this, and it's easy for the people to just to sit back and go, that sounds about right. No, it's not right. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, are we crazy? We can't be crazy, right? That sort of feels like anyway. So we're split into a group, and just the majority's over here, and they're pointing, going blah. And you can't enjoy all the things that you wanted to enjoy, that you pay the damn same taxes that side does, and you can't enjoy those things. And the government said, no, shove that up your ass, government. Like, no, you can't. Like, you can't do that. So how do we push back? This is what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point there, that when we do become polarized as a society into right and left, rather than fighting up how you should be, we fight against each other. And so the government just stays up there, just throwing little things in, and that's what always happens. History repeats itself. Back in communist Russia, you didn't have to worry about the government. You had to worry about your neighbor or your child that went off to school and told them, mum and dad are having these conversations that they're not supposed to be having according to the state. And then mum and dad get shipped off and shot. And that's, people say, oh, how can you? And I saw it with my own eyes on social media. Someone had a massive go. How dare you compare us to Germany? We're nothing like them. It's nothing like Nazi. What are you talking about? And I'm like, Are you blind? What's going on? Okay, so there's no rifles involved, only because they weaponized just a few years ago, and that's another rabbit hole which I won't go down. But not even being able to have the conversation, that is where the challenge is, because if you can't communicate, you don't know how many numbers are actually on your side, and that's where the silent majority is actually really, really dangerous, because it's a sleeping giant. And until they wake up and actually start having that conversation, and we're having lots of rallies, and the media is doing its best to quash that, but we've now got, like drone footage of tens of thousands of people, not a couple of hundred as the media would love us to believe.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So how do you think, because I know you've been very fortunate enough to actually attend a seminar of Jordan Peterson's, and you've done quite a bit of research in that department.
Yep.
How do you think in an average person's world they could actually move forward to have that conversation, given that most people don't enjoy confrontation or being ostracized? How could they do that?
Yeah. It comes down to us, I think, as leaders, as parents. Start basically at the home, and what I find about some of the seminars and I hear about, it talks about, obviously it's difficult to speak to children, right? You got to, especially on that group. So you got to kind of, I'm 40 something too, so I got to use that same language, so they can, so you're on a sense that you can actually have that kind of conversation with them and speak in words that they can understand, rather than being a parent. Do you know what I mean? Like that top down thing, blah, 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 blah. I don't want that. So putting questions, asking the right questions too. So it's not about telling them what to do. It's about exploring their minds as well. So really scripting your questions carefully, in a language that they can understand, and to start those conversations to draw them in. And does that make sense? So and then obviously, of course, we have to have good leaders, man. We are so poor on leaders, good leaders. What are our leaders been doing since 2007? Since John Howard left and Hawke, Australia's never been the same. It's ridiculous, and we're okay with that. I had this conversation with my good mate the other night, and so we are okay with this, man. Like we shouldn't be okay with flipping our, rotating our leaders. They're in the highest positions possible, and they in front of us, they look like clowns, and we're okay with that. Do you know what I mean? Like, we need some strong leaders, ones that don't lie to us, or at least when they make a mistake, say, "Oh, I made that mistake. I'm sorry about that," and be honest. And I think that's where it starts. It's our leaders, us as well. So
if Joe Bloggs is sitting there listening to you, going, "Well, Tony, you seem like a good, solid, strong man. That you're well read. I don't even know how to stand up and be a leader. I'd love to be a leader." What's one thing that they could do today to actually step into their own power and be the leader that they need to be the change?
Well, I'm like, this person here is the opposite of what you would want to say 10 years ago. It took a long time for me to be there. And how I got there was through a lot of education and knowledge, and that's what the children, and I guess in the future, are going to need to do, is don't just take what people are saying to be true. You need to, unfortunately, they need to go and find out if they believe that or not, and that, which means go and do some research and see where that facts come from, and make sure that, and you might come to the same answer that they were thinking of, but at least you did the work, right? And that's important too. So I guess knowledge, getting to learn more and more. I've got a long list of people that I've been studying for the last 4 or 5 years and researching down right back to the 18th century. And You can learn so much from what happened there. It's compelling to see what they talk about happens today. So there's a lot of that. I go to sleep on audiobooks. It's in my ear all the time. I'm downloading whatever I can freely. And that's the beauty about YouTube and the internet. You can get this, you can have the smartest men in the world speak to you freely and have lectures, and you can just listen, and not just listen, but learn. And I don't care if it takes 10 or 20 times to get it down, learn it. So when you open your mouth, the ones that are listening are going to hear and hear factually.
So good. So good. So do you think that you're going to return into business at any time soon?
I'd like to. Gee, that's such a hard question. Probably not. I think the leaders have to change first. But really? I'll be right behind them. You know, it starts with state, and it definitely moves up. This is very, very scary times. Meaning, if they take power, they're not giving it back. And if you don't have it back, something has to happen. I'm not a person that likes violence, but I wouldn't advocate it either. But what happened in the French Revolution really made sense to them. Do you know what I mean? If you take a mother or a parent's livelihood, their way of eating, and you take all the spoils, something evil is going to happen. I'm not saying this is going to happen here, but something like that needs to happen. Like something in a way needs to happen in a sense like that for them to change. It's compelling in hard times, man.
Do you think that you would ever run for politics?
Well, I'm not a good liar. I'm very bad at lying. I always tell the truth.
Case in point. That's why maybe you should run.
Truth is truth. You just say it like it is, right? Maybe. Who knows?
Power to the pitchforks, my friend. Power to the pitchforks.
Correct.
Get some villagers up into the castle. That's what we really need right now.
Yeah. I mean, if it's needed, who knows?
So what do you see as being a COVID-free and an autonomous, a good Australia where our leaders actually understand that they're public servants, they're not our masters, they're our servants, and they're supposed to serve our country so that our country can do well? What does a good Australia look like to you?
Yeah, it's turning that on its head. It's actually doing that backwards, I think, we're so used to listening and, doing the thing. Yeah, they're right. But we've advanced in the last 5 to 10 years technically, right?
Yeah.
So we can catch them on their lie, right? In the 90s, we couldn't do that. We're just, they're right. Yeah, they're totally right. Whatever it is, they're right. They're totally right.
Yeah.
We'll just follow that. We couldn't source their findings. We'll just follow that, right? So we're used to that old kind of 19th century kind of move.
Yeah.
The world has changed so rapidly in the last, let's say, 10, 20 years, so quickly, in the last 10, 20 years, that old 19th century move is still in us.
Yeah.
And we need smarter thinkers to push us that way, right?
Yeah.
This won't last. I'm talking about currency and things like this. It will need to change. So to answer the question shortly, that was a long version. It's to turn that on its head. It's to say, you are we're the ones who pay you. You're the public servants. This is where our tax goes. I don't think many people know where their tax comes from. I'd be surprised if they actually do, where it goes to. You know what I mean? Well, I pay tax. Where's it go to? Who knows? I just pay it. And that's probably a conversation that needs to be, brought up.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be turned on its head to get some changes, some real changes. I'm going to do some work on that.
That's awesome. And do you have any tips, tricks, suggestions for someone that's listening that says, wow, I really like what Tony's got to say, but I'm really feeling a bit lost myself. It's a big ocean. I don't know which direction to swim in. What would you say to that person?
Is to know that it's going to be okay. There are people like yourself, Beck, that are cheering this thing. I'm going to be a cheerleader too with my pom-poms behind you, mate. There are people out here that are like yourself, doing the work, and there are actually you're one, and maybe myself is one of hundreds of thousands of us out there, that right? Like, I wouldn't say maybe even millions across Australia that they want to say what we're saying but can't because they don't have a place to do it.
Yeah.
Be okay with that. Just be okay with that. We're fighting. We're fighting for that voice, that freedom. There are men and women that died in the military, in wars that got us to this day to stand and have these freedoms and live on this land.
Yeah.
We can't forget that, and it's going to be okay. There are people out there that actually care about your life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Tony, thank you so much for being a guest on Fair Go today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And look forward to hearing how things are going in your life in the next few months. Do stay in touch. And when there's something exciting, you must let us know so you can come back on and tell us what's happening.
I totally will. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been fun. Cool.
Have you got an inspiring story to tell? Register your business now for your chance to be featured on our Fair Go podcast. Ready to lend a helping hand? That's great. You can chip in through the website. Remember, 100% profit goes directly back into local small business. Together, we can rebuild this great Southland for ourselves and the next generation. Go to fairbusinessaustralia.com.au.